don't know why you feel compelled to do that.
It's like ASMR.
No, it's not like ASMR. It's annoying as crap. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Scream Sister. This is your friendly, spooky little podcast dedicated to the creepy movies and creepy books of the Spanish language horror and Latin American variety. My name is Valerie.
And I'm Veronica.
Veronica's looking at herself. What are you doing? Staring at herself. Veronica enters the studio just like screaming at the top of her lungs, hello, and scares
hello.
It was way too loud. All right. So I wanted to check in with you because you just came back from Colorado, was it?
Yes, Colorado. The weather, oh my God. The weather was
So
so
beautiful.
much better. Yes. And then I walk in like crisp, clear, clean air. And then I walk into this humid soup that we call Texas. It's disgusting.
I think we've already hit like some 90-degree days and we're barely into May, so it does not bode well. Yeah, the pictures looked gorgeous. You were doing hiking, you were out there in nature, you were wearing splendid pink pants.
It was a very cool Y. It's not like our local Ys that are more exercise gyms. This was like a Y that was built for camps, like summer camps, kids' summer
cool.
camps. They also
Yeah.
do like a lot of family reunions. So they have lodges that are like hotels, but kind of rustic. There's no TVs in any of the rooms. And then they have cabins. It's a huge campus, and they've got a roller skating rink in there, an indoor pool. You can do archery, crafts, horseback riding. They've got an aerial course.
Did you take lots of books? Did you do some reading while you were there then?
No, I didn't have any time to read.
Well, we are, at the time of this recording, we are on the cusp of Mother's Day weekend here stateside. So I guess when this episode's coming out, it's already post Mother's Day. So for all who mother in all the ways, happy belated Mother's Day. We love you. You're great. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, Ron, before we launch into any movie stuff, I wanted to talk to you because I had sent you this resource from screenrant.com. Did you have a chance to look at it? It's called 10 Horror Movies Where a House is a Character.
I did look at that one.
I think you've said this before, that you enjoy movies where the house is kind of its own character, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a house, just the setting, where the setting of the movie, like in the Ritual, it was the forest. So it's like the setting is kind of an entity and a character in and of itself. I did read that article. I do not have it pulled up at the moment.
I'm continuing to have I just, we're going to overcome it. We're going to push through. But I hate the fact that I can hear you so beautifully through my headphones, but I can't hear myself. So I just feel like I'm shouting. And if I'm shouting, everyone, I apologize. But it's because I can't hear myself. Now I know what Mariah Carey feels like when she's out there on stage ripping out her headpiece because she can't hear herself, and it's frustrating. It's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. Anyway, I was looking at the list of some of these movies because for me, this is a huge trope that I love. I love a creepy house. I love a creepy house movie. I love a creepy house book. And so there's a lot of movies. I was going to say a lot of something else, but a lot of movies in this article that we're going to share with you guys that, yeah, I love these houses.
I've seen all of these but one.
Okay, wait. So let's start at the top because I have not seen Monster House.
You've never seen Monster House.
I've never seen Monster House. Is it a kid's movie?
Okay, I don't even see that on this movie.
It's at the top. It's the very first movie. Constance. Or is that the name of the house? Why does it say Constance and then Monster House? I've never seen it, guys. I apologize.
It's called Monster House.
It's a kid's movie, though. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's why I haven't
said. It said at Halloween. You've never seen Monster House?
I don't watch kids' movies generally. Is it good?
Yes, it's good. You don't need kids to see it.
Is it like, okay, so the next question, is it a movie my kids would like? Because then I'll watch it with them. Or are they going to be scaredy cats?
My kids liked it. Yours might be.
$5 says mine are going to be scaredy cats because mine they've fallen away from their mother. Do you know that my middle child, those of you who don't know, which is everybody, born in October, my Halloween baby. He barely likes Halloween. He much prefers Christmas. I'm very he's going to be 10 this year. I'm still devastated by it. I will
Because
never
you get
recover.
presents at Christmas. Is this really hard to figure out?
Whatever.
Why he prefers Christmas?
Okay, well, next on the list was not clear when exactly this came out, but this is The House of Usher with Vincent Price. So this is Roger Corman and Vincent Price. You've seen that one.
Long time ago.
This is not one I've taken in. I should. I've seen plenty of black and white Vincent Price. I haven't seen a ton of Vincent Price in color, but I'm a big Vincent Price fan, so I'll have to check that out. And then there's also elsewhere on the list is The House of Usher from something called Extraordinary Tales. The House of Usher segment, I should say, in Extraordinary Tales.
Okay, that one I haven't seen. So there's 2 on this list that I have not seen.
Have you seen this was apparently a miniseries penned by Stephen King called Rose Red. Rose Red was a TV miniseries that came out in 2002, so much later than it. But it's got David Dukes, it's got Julia Campbell, Melanie Linsky. Great line that's quoted in this article from this that captures the spirit of Rose Red. It says, quote, "We say haunted, but we mean the house has gone insane." I've not seen that. I'll have to check that out. Came out in 2000. What did I say? 2002.
2002.
So not that old. And then of course, yes, we get to Allerdale Hall, Crimson Peak. Is it Allerdale or Allerdale? Allerdale. I've never really paid attention to how they pronounce it in the movie, but I'm a huge fan of this movie. I love Crimson Peak. You've seen Crimson Peak as well. Gothic romance, gothic fantasy, whatever. It's a really great Guillermo del Toro film. Last I saw it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there, but it's excellent. I believe I saw somewhere how Guillermo del Toro had the set for the house, for the hall. They had that built to scale. So it's not them performing in front of green screens or things of that nature. It's like an actual set that was built, and it was really very, very cool. And then, of course, we get to Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street house, quintessential home, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, which if you look at the photo in this link, it does not it looks like a bed and breakfast or like a restaurant. I believe it is a restaurant now. Looks very quaint, very charming. 108 Ocean Avenue, the Amityville Horror House. Huge fan of both the original and the reboot with Ryan Reynolds. It was like introducing the world to a whole new, serious, buffed up Ryan Reynolds. And then the Winchester house. Did you ever see Winchester, Ron?
No, I could have never even heard. I mean, I've heard of the Winchester Mansion, but I didn't know there was a movie or a show or whatever this is. So
there is.
I've not seen it.
I watched it on Netflix one night, and it's Helen Mirren and what is his face? Let me look that up real quick. If you Google Winchester, like a whole bunch of stuff comes up that is not the movie. That's not his name. Is that his name? Jason Clarke? Okay. Yeah, so it's Helen Mirren and Jason Clarke. That's not who I thought was in this movie playing the doctor. I thought it was the dude who played what's his face in The Conjuring. This is the game we play every single episode. What's his face? What's her face? Patrick Wilson. I was thinking it was Patrick Wilson. It's not. This dude's name is Jason Clarke. So anyway, it's a good movie. Helen Mirren is excellent in it. The Overlook Hotel from The Shining. Fantastic.
Actually, the place we were at in Colorado was Estes Park. So the Stanley Hotel, which was Stephen King's inspiration for The Shining, for the Overlook Hotel, is located there. I did not get to go, but I saw the outside. It's really pretty.
Really? You should have made time to go.
No, well, see, it's a reason for you to go.
I know that's not the vibe of the group you were with. I know if you had been like, "Hey, girls, let's go to this spooky hotel."
Some of the ladies did go. You can pay to have a tour, or you can just park and roam around for free. Some people went just to like eat there at their restaurant, whatever.
Those are the women you need to befriend. Those are your sisters in spirit. But yes, this is a big trope that I love very much. Creepy houses, haunted houses. Honestly, that made the last 2 films we've watched kind of fun because we had The Binding, although the house isn't what the problem is in The Binding. The Binding is related to other things that are happening within the house, but this house is definitely something's going on with the house. This week, we took a look at 2013's La Casa del Fin de los Tiempos, or The House at the End of Time. It's directed by Alejandro Hidalgo, starring, I could be getting these names wrong, I apologize, Rudy Rodriguez, Gonzalo Guberol, Rosemel Bustamante, Guillermo Garcia, and Hector Mercado as Little Rodrigo. The film premiered at the Venezuelan Film Festival and it grossed 4.4 million. And this little factoid is kind of written all across the internet and everything that comes up about this movie if you go and search for it. It became the highest grossing horror film in the history of Venezuela. So, Veronica, we watched this recently. This was our first time for both of us seeing this film. How did it go for you? What did you think of it?
Overall, had a strong start. It just kind of started at a point where, and I'm not getting into plot details, I'm just my initial impressions. It kind of started off, you can tell things have already gone to shit. You're kind of in the middle of whatever has gone down. You have no idea what, but so it just
like heavily in the middle of it. I was just
heavily,
like, did I fast forward and like miss a chunk of the movie?
Yeah, heavily in the middle of it. It goes straight for the jump scares. So it was pretty tense right from the get-go. And then kind of eases off of that for a minute. And I thought the pacing was pretty good in that sense that it would ease off and then it'd push the pedal again and then ease off again and push the pedal.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I liked the way things eventually made sense at the end and then you saw the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I thought the ending was, for a horror movie, was pretty heartwarming.
So okay.
bittersweet, but
bittersweet. I had a lot of good fun with this movie, and I thought the suspense was really well played. I know that I had plenty of time, and we'll get to it, but I had plenty of moments in this movie where I was just like, "Don't even be in this house anymore. Like, just get out of this house.
I know.
Why are we still here?"
I was like, "Why are you going back to this house?" But I guess you didn't really have a choice. But.
Right. So I thought the plot twists were when we get to the end, which we'll talk about I thought the plot twists and how it all came together were probably some of the best executed parts of this film. And I thought that was really great. Although I still have questions and hopefully we get to some of these as we discuss it. And the reason I have questions for this, and by the way, guys, before we even launch into this, I think we forgot to say it last episode, but we will be spoiling this movie for you. So if you haven't watched it yet, please go watch it first. Actually, I thought it was going to be for rent on Amazon Prime. I watched it for free on Amazon Prime. So
yeah, so did I.
Yeah. So you watch it with commercials, but it is free currently. So go watch it and then come back and check this episode out. But my questions that are going to pop up are the same kind of questions I always have pop up with movies that involve multiple timelines. You don't, and my husband Alex too, for that matter, does not struggle with multiverse. Is it multiverse? Multiple timelines. He doesn't struggle with them. Do you? I struggle mightily. I have many questions.
You struggle if you try to think about it too hard.
Exactly.
Like, if you just accept it at face value and go with it,
my
which
brain
I did.
Can't
like
do it.
when the movie ended, I was like, "Oh, that was really good." And then later, laying down trying to fall asleep, I was like, "But wait a minute, why was this?" And
see,
why
and
was that?
That is my brain
and
immediately.
Then I tripped myself. Then I tripped myself up because I'm like, "Well, did that make sense, really?"
But this is my struggle, and it's why I can't have multiple timelines because I'm just like, but wait, and so we'll get there. But anyway, that was my struggle, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was really fun. And
the 11th Doctor would just call it timey-wimey stuff.
Timey-wimey stuff.
Timey-wimey stuff.
Ooh, how interesting that it's the 11th Doctor and 11 features in this film. How creepy.
Ah.
So
there is a pattern.
The concept in this movie, obviously, where the house is such a huge character, I thought was really well. This is certainly a very creepy looking house. Lots of hallways, lots of locked doors, and
very
way
weird
too many
layout.
stairs.
Like, why are there so many stairs in this?
Why are there so many stairs? Why is there I guess it makes sense because they're struggling for money, they're hurting for money, but there's no everything.
At first I was like, why are these 4 people living in this apparently humongous house? But then you find out why they have this house.
Living their lives by candlelight. The whole movie, I was just like, there's too many. This is a massive fire hazard. What else? What else did I have to say about it? I thought that, so the woman is Dulce. Rudy Rodriguez. I thought she did a great job.
I think it's Ruddy.
Is it Ruddy? I'm sorry, everyone. Ruddy Rodriguez. I thought she did great.
A former Miss Venezuela world, apparently.
Yeah, I read that. She gave a great performance, and I think she carries the film is squarely resting on her shoulders. I think she carries it really well.
So the film opens with our character Dulce, our main character. She's unconscious on the floor. Her head's bloody. She's taken a blow somewhere, somehow. She regains consciousness. There's like shattered mirror shards all around her on the floor. The house is barely lit. The whole color palette in this movie is just very like washed out and bleak and dreary. Not a happy color palette by any means. So she
Yeah.
comes to on the floor. She grabs the nearest big mirror shard. The house is silent. She's walking through. She's calling for Leopoldo. At this point, we don't know if this is her husband or who this is. She's making her way through this dark house. She goes down some stairs, lots of hallways, like Valerie said. She comes to this room that appears to be underground, like maybe a cellar or a basement.
Which is vast. It's so huge.
Yeah,
I was
I
just
mean,
like, what the
it's
hell
like a
is this?
it's like a cavern under.
It's
She
like the
trips on
catacombs.
she trips on something and points her little lamp down, and there's a man of a body.
Yes.
Man of a body. There's a body of a man.
A
It's a
man
man
of
of
a
a
body.
body. A body of a man laying there, and she says the name Juan Jose. We still don't know who this person is. Is it a caretaker, a gardener, a husband, blah, blah, blah. She leans over. He appears to be dead. And this is the first jump scare because he's got like a knife sticking out, like neck adjacent, like upper shoulder area.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
all
yeah.
bloody. He suddenly like reaches out and grabs her. And then he apparently
Almost like he's
expires.
possessed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he apparently expires for real. And then she looks up and she sees a young boy standing there who is Leo, who is her son, as it turns out. She calls him to come to her. He looks a little bit shell shocked, unsure. He starts to take a few small steps her way and suddenly gets yanked backwards into this darkened doorway. The door shuts. She runs. She finally gets it open, and it's just an empty room. So her
Yeah.
son is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And then we see her, or we hear a voiceover, basically a court of law. She's been convicted of murdering her husband and her son. She goes to prison, and
30
then the movie
years.
jumps forward 30 years.
30 years. Yeah. Later on, I don't know if it's pieced together. I can't remember if it's pieced together there in the beginning or later on. But so we established that that opening sequence takes place in like 1981 or something like that. So then it fast forwards. We are now in 2011. The opening sequence is so jarring that initially I was like, all right, great, cool, we're hitting the ground running. But then because I felt like so much was happening, we're getting so much information in that opening sequence that then I started having the feeling, wait, did I like start this movie in progress somewhere already? Like, did I maybe this feels like too much happening before we even get to opening
And
credits?
I was wondering, like, did the son kill the husband? So lots of questions immediately, like what the hell happened? Because clearly a lot of stuff went down.
So then we flash forward and it's a really cool shot where it's like they show the police officers escorting a young Dulce into her cell, and then the passage of time when the cell doors open, it's now her as an old woman. And so she's essentially being released into what's called compassionate something. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's essentially they're allowing her to, because she's so old, I guess, they're allowing her to live out the rest of her sentence in
that house.
In that
her
house.
home.
So they send her back to that house. Because initially I was like, why the hell would you
I
go
know.
back to live in this house?
I thought she was being released from prison, and I was like, dang, in Venezuela the police drive you home after you get out of prison.
And so, yes,
But
what we
no,
come to find
yeah.
out is like she's going to be kind of under guard there. So there are police officers there guarding her. She can't leave her home. She's a prisoner in this home.
Yeah.
But yes, that is why she's back there, which makes better sense because initially I was like, the hell I'd be going back to that house where my
Right.
child disappeared. There's a young priest. Did he introduce himself initially?
I'm thinking he introduced him.
Not.
Yeah, I'm thinking he didn't say his name.
Because it plays in
but
later on.
He shows up and is saying that everyone said you killed your family. I don't believe it. And I'm like, dude, do you not watch Dateline? Why do you seem so confident that she didn't do this? He wants to find out from her like what really went down, what really happened in that house 30 years ago.
Yes.
Because he doesn't, for whatever reason that we don't know at the time, doesn't believe that she did it, what she was accused of doing.
And then like during the
even though he does mention they said your fingerprints were on the knife, and she says I never touched the knife, so it raises lots of little questions about, well, how could that be? How could your fingerprints be on the knife if you never touched it? So all these little things that
that will play
Makes
in
sense
later,
later.
but
Yeah.
yes. So then she starts, I guess, telling him the story, and so we're seeing her story in flashbacks. It shows her making breakfast for her 2 sons. She has 2 sons, Leopoldo and Rodrigo. It just shows them in normal morning time rituals. She's making breakfast, encouraging them to get out and play, don't be late, yada, yada, yada. Don't be late for dinner, don't get dirty, stay out of trouble, etc. The kids go running off, and it's just sort of like a fun little sequence where we get to see these little boys kind of moving through the community with the neighborhood kids, doing stuff that little kids do, playing baseball, goofing off, getting in trouble with elders and stuff like that, and just sort of causing mayhem. By the time they come back home, it's now nightfall. They've broken all the rules that their mother told them not to do. Number one, they're late. It's now dark. Number two, they're dirty, and so she answers the door. And kind of what you're supposed to get off of these initial exchanges with her and her children, because she's stern. She's stern enough with them in the beginning that you get the idea, okay, perhaps she could be a mom who is cruel, abusive, prone to violence, prone to rage, whatever. And especially when she answers the door and they're in trouble for being late and being dirty and having missed dinner, yada yada. She definitely looks like she could be someone who could snap. But, we don't see any of that. She shows that she is a loving mother. She's no more stern or strict than anybody else. And so she bathes Rodrigo, she sticks him in his room. I did note she locks the door. She has a penchant for going around rooms and locking doors, so she has a set of keys on her. She goes into Leopoldo's room. She gives him a little pearl from her ring, and she's like, I want you to hang on to this, and whenever you squeeze it, I will be there to protect you. I will always be with you, etc. And so this is what I mean by pretty promptly crap goes down, because in this next sequence, I think this is only like 20-30 minutes into the film, and we're already hitting our next peak of jump scare-ish type stuff, to the point where I was thinking, man, I'm already exhausted and we're not even halfway through this film. She goes into her room. She goes to unlock a bottom drawer and is looking through little mementos that she has in that bottom drawer. And then she hears her husband coming home and locks all of that stuff away because she doesn't want him to find it, and goes and lays down. And he comes in and is talking to her about trying to find work. And we get the immediate sense that there's tension in their marriage. They're barely speaking to one another. She says all that he ever gives her is excuses. She's tired of his excuses. She's tired of his promises. He says something to the effect of, I miss the way we used to be before. She says, I miss all the days that never came, which is brutal to say to someone. I miss all the days that never came. We get the immediate sense that they're hurting for money. He's hurting for work. They're not in a good place in their marriage. So he leaves. Goes off, leaves the house. And so she's sitting there kind of stewing. And that is when she hears the door start to shake, the doorknob rattle. And she assumes it's her son Leopoldo trying to come out. I think we go to Rodrigo's room where he hears somebody jiggling on his door. Mind you, all these doors are locked. So he can't get out of his room. I don't know why she locks her children in the room at night, but she does. So he can't get out of his room. When the door manages to somehow come open, he immediately jumps under his sheet and thinks, if I hide under the sheet, everything's okay. And so all we see on the other side of the sheet is the image of what appears to be a small child. And we don't know what's going on at this point. All we know is that this is a small child. We get the sense based off of what happened in the opening sequence and what she feels to be the case now as she's returned to the house 30 years later. We get the sense that this house must be haunted. So we assume that this entity on the other side of the sheet is a ghost of some sort. And so we assume also that the entity trying to open up her door at the same time that this is all happening is also a ghost of some sort.
It's just hard to talk about this movie because of the time element, and you're always catching like these little fleeting things happening in the background that you're like, what was that? Was that a person? And who was that?
And you're getting fragments.
So I was just confused. At this point, I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm
along for the ride. Yeah, well, you're getting all these fragments. So you're getting all of these fragments that are going to come into play eventually, and it's going to come together really interestingly. So then the next day, what happens is the next morning, we are still currently in the past. So we're back in 1981. The next morning, obviously, Dulce and her husband have a police officer out to the house to talk about the fact that she believes someone broke in the night before, was trying to get at her and her children. The officer's extremely unhelpful. Leopoldo, the little boy, who is the big brother, is unwilling to talk. Whatever he has seen, and he's seen something because he's clearly weirded out. Leopoldo goes up to his mother. He says, she talked to me, and he hands her a note, and he said, she said to give this to you. Then she goes and talks to her husband later. She shoves this note in his face, and she's like, look, what does the note say? Does it say
Juan Jose is
Juan Jose, who is her husband?
going to kill you, or
That's right. Leopoldo came to
is
his
going to
mother
try to
and
kill you, something like that.
yes, Leopoldo came to his mother, and not only did he hand her the note, he had said that whoever he talked to, a woman, told him, don't play with Rodrigo. And also, here's this note, hand it to your mother. And so the note is, yes, a warning saying Juan Jose is going to kill Rodrigo. And at that point, I'm just like, ma'am, leave that house. Just leave. And she does. She tries to pack her bag. She tries to leave. And this is where we see her Juan Jose kind of turn on a dime, because up to this point, he's been kind of just this beaten down, broken, sad, pathetic man. But you see him puff up and grab her and threaten her and just say, you're not going to leave. If you leave, you'll never see these kids again. I don't care what the hell you do, but you're not taking my children out of this house. And then we flash forward to 2011 and we show a sequence of the priest going through, searching the archives for information about this house.
It was built a century before by a mason, Mr. Eckert built it, and he wanted to build it on this specific spot for, what was the reason? Because
Something about like all of the answers to life, something to life, to
of
the universe
or
were
something
there.
like that. How
And
he
so-
knew this, I have no idea. They didn't say, they didn't explain how he would know this or come to believe this, but he built this house on this spot, moved his family in there, and then after a certain period of time, he and his whole family just disappeared without a trace, were never seen again. Over time, the government took over that house, which is how our current family, Dulce and her husband, got it, is the government would sell it or rent it for really cheap. And apparently every family that moved in after that, the second family also one by one disappeared and were never found again. So
this house is like some kind of black hole. No good can come from Masons building stuff for creepy esoteric reasons. Young Leopoldo, young Rodrigo going out to play. Rodrigo somehow has the pearl that Dulce had given Leopoldo for protection, for comfort. Somehow he has the pearl and he's handing it to this little girl he has a crush on.
So the boys, they're all out. The kids are all out playing baseball, just on a sand, on a lot. And little Rodrigo is pitching to his brother Leopoldo, who's batting, and he misses the first two, but on the third hit, he hits the ball with everything he's got. It flies, it hits poor Rodrigo straight in the head, knocks him down. He hits his head again on a rock that's on the ground, and so he dies. Poor little Rodrigo.
I miss that. I miss the part where he hit the rock. Ugh,
yeah. So
just tragic.
Leopoldo is standing there in shock. How horrible to live with the knowledge that you killed your brother. So the next scene is everybody's at the cemetery. They're burying Rodrigo. Leopoldo's just in tears. Very sad.
This father's going to go off the deep end. He's just buried his son. But you can't conceive of why. Like, why would he do that? Why would he turn on his son? Until Juan Jose manages to get into that drawer. I don't know what compels him to do it, but
because Dulce has the key to that drawer hidden in. She has it in a little box that's just under the bed. If you don't want people to find your stuff, hide it better. He's sitting on the bed smoking a pipe. He drops the pipe on the floor, so when he bends down to pick up the pipe, he sees the little box and he opens it up. The key's in there. He goes, figures out what the key is for, and opens it up and finds her little mementos, one of which is a letter that apparently is from an old love of hers that's saying, apparently her old love, her first love, whatever, was dying, giving her all the I loves you. You made me happy. Life was worth living with you, blah, blah, blah. Give our son my name, but give him your husband's surname. Stay with Juan Jose because he's a good man, which apparently you are so off point with that one.
So then was this an affair then she was having?
I don't know if it wasn't clear, but my take was it was like a first love that maybe she got pregnant with. He was dying, and so maybe she married, because Juan Carlos has all this time has thought that Leopoldo is his son. And then whereas we're learning through this letter, Leopoldo is actually the son of this other man. I don't know. It could have been an affair that she had, and then she just passed it off as her husband's son, or it could have been like a first love that she had before him. She got pregnant, he was dying, and so she immediately hooked up with Juan Jose or what's his name? Was it Juan Jose or Juan Carlos? I don't even remember.
Juan Jose,
Juan
yeah.
Jose. So either way, Juan, I'm gonna keep saying Juan Carlos. Juan Jose.
Just say Juan.
Yeah, just say Juan. She allowed him to believe all this time that Leopoldo was in fact his son. So
yes,
this kind of hits Juan, like a ton of bricks, which is understandable, but his response to it does not make sense to me.
Right.
Because you've raised this boy all these years as your son.
And also it's like, it's just stupid to think that this was done with malice and that now the appropriate, but this is a man who has snapped, so we can't judge it. But it's like, and that now the appropriate
I can judge. I always judge.
That now the appropriate response is, well, now I must murder you because you have
5 minutes ago I loved you as my son, and now I want to kill you because I know you're not my son. This is just no, I'm judging.
He snaps. Prior to all of that snappage, we do get one more snap into the future, into the 2011 present. She does get one more visit from this young priest, who, by the way, has an amazing jacket. Did you notice that? His priest jacket? It was giving Keanu Reeves a la The Matrix. And I guess he kind of discloses something's going on with the 11th month, the 11th day, the 11th year, the 11th second. Something's going to happen. And so you need to be ready for it. You need to be ready to see it through, I guess, to sort of uncover what happened to her, or at least uncover what happened. We do somehow learn that it's an overlap of time. All of those fragments that we talked about at the beginning, they all snap into place. And I thought it was so well executed. What did you think of that?
The movie itself, the way it was filmed, the director slotted all the pieces in just the right place so that it made sense eventually. Because what we have, and for anyone who may have seen, not to be too spoilery about another movie, but anyone who's seen the Haunting of Hill House, it's kind of that same sense of people in a house interacting with each other at different points in time, but not knowing it. So like the arm, when Dulce's in her room and she's got the chain lock across it and the arm comes around the door trying to open it, that's old Dulce in 2011 reaching her arm in there. So old Dulce is actually interacting with Dulce from the 80s. They just don't know it. The other scene where Rodrigo was in his room and scared because he thought it was Leopoldo. Yeah. It was Leopoldo, but it was Leopoldo from...
What he witnessed was Leopoldo from maybe a few days later. The reason he's so stunned when he gets into the room is because he's like, we just buried you. We literally just buried you. That was a really sweet scene.
It touched my heart because I think we've mentioned it before that Valerie and I lost a sister to cancer. I mean, it's been 20 years now, but can you just imagine what that would be like? Even if it's just a few minutes with that person that you think you're not going to see it anymore in this life. So yeah, that scene really touched me.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah. And and that is the moment where they hug, Leopoldo's crying. He hands the pearl over to Rodrigo. So
that's how he got it.
That's how he got it. And when that piece comes together, he hands it over to Rodrigo and says the same thing his mother said, if you ever need me. Or I don't know what he says, but he hands it to him. It all happens in these weird sequences where it's like they're there for a few seconds and then they're gone. Fascinatingly done.
And then, of course, we find out that the she that had given Leopoldo the message to not play with Rodrigo, which now we know why, and gave him the note to give to Dulce from the 80s, is actually old Dulce from 2011. So it's his mother, significantly aged, that's trying to give him advice to not play with your brother so that he doesn't end up dying. And sadly, that did not work. I wish it had. So it's just really, really well done. I think we're making a hash of it, trying to explain it. But hopefully you guys have watched the movie and you know. And if you haven't seen the movie, we warned you and we're sorry for completely confusing you.
We kind of lock into the past for a bit, the 1981 past. Now we get to see Juan having that break where he's just bound and determined to punish this boy. He's realized that this is not his biological son and he's angry and grief-stricken and incredibly stupid. Dulce steps out, catches him, tries to plead with him and appeal to him. He shoves her into a mirror, knocks her out. And this is where it's like, okay, this is where we picked up. This is where we started at the beginning of the movie with her unconscious on the ground, Juan chasing Leopoldo around the house, trying to stab him with a knife. And poor pobrecito, like I was watching this little boy who's brokenhearted, already blames himself for the death of his brother, and now he's being chased around by the only father he's ever known, who's wielding a knife. Like, just a wretched scene and moment in the movie. She finally comes to
that old man,
what we still presume to be the ghost of an old man, but he leads her down to the catacombs and kind of explains what the situation is. And I have many questions. I'm gonna botch
well,
this.
he says,
Can you do it?
I don't know, because he says, what did he say? First of all, he says he's come from 2071 or some
Right.
weird thing like that, and for some reason chooses to come in like an open robe and trousers. I don't know why. He says that the family that built it, so the Eckerts, are all in the future also, which I think is kind of bizarre, living in a time that they don't belong in, and that somehow he always knew that the house would bring him back to his mother or her back to him, either way. And he's telling her that back in the 80s, when he was a child, the disease that killed his father, his birth biological father, was already starting to manifest in him. But that back in the 80s, they did not have the medical technology to save his life, but they would have it in the future. He's basically asking his mom to save him. At first, she seems like she's not going to do it, or she can't do it because
she doesn't
sends.
understand, and neither do I. Old Leopoldo tells her, you have to save me. And she does. Like, she protects her son because Juan is about to stab him. So she kills Juan first. And then she's like, you need to go back to your mother. I can't take care of you. You belong there. And she starts going down the stairs. She hears old Leopoldo echoing in her ears again, you can save me now. Then she comes up and snatches him away.
So that's how her fingerprints got on the knife. It's just kind of sad because she does this knowing that she's condemning her younger self to that same life, losing her son, not seeing him again, having to go to prison for 30 years for a crime she didn't really commit. Kind of sort of did, but not really.
Miraculously, she has pulled young Leopoldo through time. I wrote that down. She pulls her son through time and pulls him into 2011. I have questions about that too. But anyway, pulls him through 2011 and then shows him to the young priest, who we establish is a childhood friend of Leopoldo's. He's grown up and he never gave up the search for his friend, who he treated like a brother. She tells him, I'm not able to care for him anymore. I'm old. Take care of him. He promises her that he will be in the best of hands. A lovely, unusually pleasant ending for a scary horror movie. But can we go back? Let's go back to the old man. So he's from the future that she gave him because she's already saved him. I'm confused. Do you see how timeline movies break my brain? How is he from the future? If she hasn't saved him yet, how is he from the future?
Generally with these timeline things, you have to think of it, it's not linear. It's like a loop. So she saves him, and then I don't know where he's been existing in all these 30 years, but he's still aged. Although, well, I don't even know, because she pulled him out when he was like, what, 10, 11, maybe somewhere around there. He's clearly, 30 years would just put him in like in his 40s. He's clearly older than 40 years old. So
yeah.
Time works differently. When you start to like try to pick it apart, it's because even the priest, and like at the end when he's walking with young Leopoldo through the streets and they come across that young woman, and she's got the pearl that Rodrigo gave her, so she was the little girl that Rodrigo had a crush on,
his first
but
crush.
Those kids were all like 10 years old. They look younger than being in their 40s. That woman looked like she was still in her 20s. So, and the priest too, 30 max. So they didn't look old enough to have been, but that's just casting, whatever. Yeah, just don't think about it too much.
It is an interesting film, and it would be interesting to go back and look at it again and
just
see.
Accept that it was actually a pretty good movie to watch. You guys will get this after Mother's Day, but right now it's Friday. We're recording this on Friday. Mother's Day is this Sunday, so day after tomorrow. So it is quite fitting to watch this movie, I think, because it was about a mother's love, her willingness to sacrifice and to actually make that sacrifice like Dulce did. She sacrificed basically her life. She knew that in order to save her son, she had to still live out that miserable existence that she had, but she was willing to
Mhm.
do that for her son. Yeah, I think it works.
Beautifully told. There was I wanted to read this quote from one of the resources that we've got linked for you guys. It says, shot over the course of 43 days in early 2012 on the Red 1 camera, Hidalgo said of the production, for the most part, we shot within, I am going to butcher this, we shot within the Quinta Castillete, which is an old house located in Caracas. This house has its own story because it was the property of Pedro Estrada, the chief of the national security under Marcos Perez Jimenez, a cruel dictator of the 1950s. He
Mm.
was a historic character known for his political persecutions, tortures, and assassinations against those who opposed the regime. Rumor has it that many people were tortured in the house and human remains were found in the backyard. So, like, if that
Lovely.
lovely, if that cryptic underground area, if that was real and that existed underneath this house, you could kind of conceive of how that might have been utilized as sort of like a place to lock people away. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, all of the mystery and darkness of the location, he said, were favorable for making the atmosphere of the film come alive. And I would be interested to watch it again just to sort of try and like
Yeah, try to catch all the little
thread the needle.
now that we know what all the little pieces are.
Yeah, to thread
Um,
the needle a little bit better.
what else I'm reading right now? I am still listening to the audiobook for that book, The Blight, about the coming fungal pandemic that I mentioned on the last podcast. But I also recently checked out at the library a book called Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. And that's Knoll, Bright Young Women. It's not about the Ted Bundy serial killing and the massacre of all those nurses in that, I think it was a sorority, or maybe not a sorority, but a dorm. It's not about that specific event per se, but it's modeled after that. So like a similar story, but instead of focusing on all the attention on the serial killer and how charming he was and blah blah blah, it's more focused on the bright young women, the young lives that get snuffed out. I'm just maybe like a couple of chapters in, but there was this passage that hit me, and this is it's kind of told in a reverse timeline. So this particular chapter at the beginning is dated 7 hours before the massacre, basically, and it's a Friday night. All these young college women are getting ready to go out. One of the girls is in the person who's telling the story, who apparently obviously survived the massacre, is there to borrow a sweater or some article of clothing, and it just says, I'll be a little cold, but she swung the lock lever on the glass and pushed her palms against the glass window, leaving behind prints that would soon have no living match. And I just thought that was just, that's just that's the thing that always hits me, like when I'm watching a Dateline or any kind of true crime show. It's like people are just going about their life never knowing that that's the last time they're going to do that particular thing. That's the last time they're going to be seen on a store video. You don't know when and
Oh
if
yeah.
that might ever happen for you.
Oh yeah. I think like my morbid little brain thinks about crap like that all the time. Yeah, I've heard good things about that book. That's cool that you're reading it. I kind of want to check that out too now and give that a read. I think I mentioned last time on the podcast, I'm reading The Midnight Assassin by Skip Hollandsworth. It kind of deals with, I'm assuming this is accurate, but what is sort of looked at as like the first serial killer of perhaps our state, Texas, if not like the nation at that time. This was early 1800s. It's a really interesting book. I'm almost like halfway through it. The racism jumps out. That's all I'll say. And,
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
just from like that time period, there weren't forensics teams back then. Nobody knew how to preserve a crime scene back then. Nobody really knew how to, and they relied on bloodhounds. And if the bloodhounds didn't pick up a scent, well, then they had nothing. And so there was just sort of hysteria, panic, and finger pointing against people in the Black community in Austin in the early 1800s. So just the victims themselves were often Black women. It's a really interesting story, worth reading, graphic. I don't know. It's also that that this happened. That this was real, and so it's just horrific and graphic. very well told by Skip Hollandsworth. He's obviously a great reporter, great writer. Think about giving it a read. I'm not through with it yet, but I do recommend it for people who do take on reads like this, but just know it's heavy.
So coming up, as far as our next book club podcast episode, which is coming up really quick, May 27th. So I guess I better start reading the book pretty soon because I still have not started it. It's a short book though, so hopefully it should go fast.
You keep saying that, but
I'll be there like 3 nights before we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
But anyway, coming up May 27th, like I said, next book club episode, we are reading The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So if you have not picked up your copy yet, get it, check it out at the library, do the Kindle book, or whatever ebook, get the physical book, whatever floats your boat. Audiobooks are always good. Get your copy, read it along with us, and then join us on May 27th when we'll talk about it. If you have any thoughts about it, post it. Let us know what you think. That's what we'll be reading.
And we treat this book club like an in-person book club. So we fully expect you to sit down and enjoy it with us and kick back with a mocktail or cocktail. To that point, we will have cocktails for this book. If you're not a quote unquote member of our club, you can go to screamsister.com, click on the book club page, join our book club. You get emails reminding you about the show, reminding you about our next pick, letting you know what other folks in the Scream Sister community are reading on occasion. And then we also send you get the cocktail recipes early ahead of everybody else. And so we do share that stuff on social media. But if you want to get ahead of everybody else so that you have it in time for book club episode, then do go to screamsister.com and join our club. The only other thing we wanted to remind you guys about, we're going to keep talking about it. We will be at the Texas Haunters Convention this summer in Mesquite, Texas. It's going to be July 13th and 14th. This is a 2-day convention totally dedicated to lovers of Halloween and people in the horror community. And, specifically the people who are really great at running haunts, either of the professional or really amazingly done amateur level. So if that's you, or if that's just people you like to be around like me, then come join us at the festival. We'll be there, Veronica and I. And that's it. Ron, you got anything else?
Nope, that's it.
So have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Scream Sister is a Nest production hosted by me, Veronica, and Valerie. Editing by Valerie. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Scream Sister every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It's the best way to help us grow.
Hey everyone, it's Valerie. Thank you so much for listening to Scream Sister. I wanted to take a few minutes to let you know that I wrote a book. Soil of the Gone is my first published story, and it is available now over on Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, and on Amazon. It is a ghost story passed down through generations of my own family, and it has now been reimagined as a brand new tale that debuted in October of last year, but is now available for you to get in a multitude of places. So a little bit about it. Martha has her family and a life she's very secure in, but traumatic dreams that she can't explain start happening. And soon after a day of work in a family cemetery, a supernatural terror is unleashed on her and the ones that she loves that will go far beyond anything they could possibly imagine and change their lives forever. Please pick up your copy. Like I said, Barnes & Noble, Bookshop, or Amazon. Ebook available over on Amazon. And thank you so much. Bye.